Good afternoon, Chair Stevens.
Good afternoon, Darius. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
Good. I saw that Leanne is not going to be with us today. So,
Yes, I think that's so far the only notice that we have gotten. But
okay.
whenever you're ready, we are ready to go.
Okay. We probably need maybe one more person for quorum, do we?
We do.
Okay. Maybe wait on that and then we'll roll.
Sounds good.
It's like Jessica is on, so we have quorum now, right?
We do have quorum,
Okay.
Chair Stevens.
Perfect. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's 3 o'clock. And I'll call this meeting to order. This is the Non-Attainment Area Air Pollution Mitigation Enterprise Board of Directors meeting. And I'll ask Darius to do the roll call.
Director Suniga,
Present.
Director Holguin, Director Wheeler, excused, Director Stockinger,
Here.
Director Furco,
Here.
Vice Chair Baca, and Chair Stevens.
Here.
We do have a quorum, Chair.
Wonderful. Thank you. All
Chair,
right.
if I could, Director
Yes.
Holguin has just logged in.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Hello, Director Holguin. We just did roll call, so we'll add you to being present. Thank you. So we will move on to our next agenda item, which is public comment. Darius, have you heard from anybody who wanted to give public comment?
We have not received any requests to give public comment at this time, Chair.
Okay, is there anybody online right now who wanted to give public comment? Please raise your hand or indicate otherwise. All right, seeing no hands raised, we will close public comment. And we'll move to the next item, which is a decision item, and that is approval of the minutes from our last meeting. So is there a motion for this?
I'll move we approve the minutes of August 29th.
And I'll
Thank
second.
you. Okay, Director Stockinger with the motion, Director Sunika with the second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes 5-0 unanimously. Our next item is another decision item, which is our small grant funding program, Community Clean Transportation Assistance. So I think Darius will be presenting this item. So Darius, take it away.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the kind of the culmination of all the work that the board has been doing over the past few months in order to develop this program, develop the the notice of funding opportunity and to do a final review of some of the elements within the application before, and to give staff authorization to go out and execute the agreement and open the call if the board agrees with that today. So the entire agreement itself is available in the packet. I can change to that to refer to certain items if the board wishes to, but we're going to go through a couple of items and a overall view of the packet, and then have an overview of our potential outreach strategy over the next few months, knowing that the grant opportunity will be open until the end of January based on the current timeline. So in attachment A, the NOFO, I believe, is about 25 pages long, but we wanted to make it clear enough for grantees in order to be successful with their application, but also make sure it's concise enough so we don't have what we get from our federal partners. So and to try to have as much outreach as possible. So within the actual NOFO itself, what you will find is a general background around the enterprise, the program goals and purpose, the available funding and timeline, which we'll discuss in the next couple of slides, minimum and maximum award amounts, which was discussed by the board, I believe, at the July meeting. Eligibility for the program, which is set out in statute and as what was approved by the board. The evaluation criteria and the evaluation explanation, the responsibilities of project sponsors, how to apply and where to get assistance if needed, and also some appendices. One includes the fillable application, quick notes on the items that were discussed previously with the board in order to help answer some of the questions, including emission reduction benefits of the potential grants and how their grants would support disproportionately impacted communities. And then finally, a checklist in regards to reimbursement for invoices. I'll note on the slide it says sample invoice. We'll have that available a little bit later, available on the website. We don't have it in the packet yet. There needs to be some kinks worked out with that as we go through. So moving on to the timeline, with the board's approval and as soon as we have, if there's no other major issues, we can work on getting the grant to open the grant opportunity at least available on the website as early as next week. We will want to do our due diligence to make sure that we have all the checks in place with our partners in the Colorado Division of Accounting and Finance to make sure we haven't missed out anything. But your vote today would allow us to open that up, and we would want to do that as soon as possible after this meeting. If the grant opportunity is open next week, then the timeline will be as follows. From October through January 2025, it will be open for grantees to submit their applications through the email address that's available on the website, but is also within the packet. And also to do open for questions, clarification with technical assistance, identification of engineering review, and also to submit requests for hardship reduction in match as necessary, with a final posting of potential responses if there's any questions, sort of like an FAQs. As we get them, we can post them out on the website to help out folks if they have similar questions, so they don't necessarily have to wait for somebody to get back to them. Or anything that's a question that comes up on a regular basis, we will want to have to be available. We'll have any of those closed by January 24th, with a final deadline for draft applications to be submitted at the end of January 2025. From February through March, a technical review of the applications will proceed, and then any engineering review for infrastructure feasibility with the opportunity to revise any grant applications that we have received for that information by March 31st of 2025. For the month of April, if the board agrees, the NAAPME staff led by the NAAPME program administrator can do an evaluation of those applications, do the scoring of those evaluations, and present them to the board of directors meeting for final review at the March 22nd, 2025 Board of Directors meeting to approve any of those types of applications. And then, of course, have the award letters out no later than June 30th, it says 2024 on the slide. My apologies. It is 2025 on there. So basically taking the rest of this year in order to do, since it's a new program, we want to work out some of the kinks and any potential issues that come up and give folks plenty of time to ask questions, become familiar with some of the things that are out there, such as the EnviroScreen tool, the CMAT calculator tools, and be able to have as best of an application as possible. If there is any delay, we would of course want to change this timeline appropriately. If it's more than a week delay, we would probably want to push back some of these dates a week, and we would probably come back to the board of directors later on with that new timeline to make sure that we have the appropriate time and we don't shortchange any of the steps within it. Before we go into the next step, I wanted to stop there to see if there's any questions, concerns, or suggestions from the board.
Any questions? I think
No, thank you, Chair. Yep.
Okay. Another item for the board's consideration. These were discussion topics at the previous discussions, but I wanted to do this as a quick wrap up to see if there's any questions that come up. For this call, we're opening up $17.3 million of programming funds. This should be most of the programming funds that is probably going to be currently available towards the end of fiscal year 25. I think the fund, I think probably when we talk about the budget and reconciliation of FY24 funds later on next month, there'll probably be more in the programming pool later on, but that's what the board of directors agreed to, and I think that probably makes sense and for a conservative amount. But it is a fairly large amount. The board previously agreed that a minimum grant amount of $500,000 seemed appropriate, and to have no maximum amount on the grant amount up to $17.3 million, because that's the maximum amount available. And the board has the discretion to determine the appropriateness of where to provide those funds. The general match rate is 20%, or can be a reduced matched amount through a hardship waiver as approved by the board of directors, usually through a letter to the NAAPME Enterprise Board, which can be voted on by the board of directors at the next available meeting, as long as that is in before the final deadline of the application. Well, before I go on, any questions on that, or any concerns or red flags?
Director Sunita, please.
Thank you, Chair Stevens. Great work on this team. This looks really good. I was just wondering, we have the deadlines and that kind of stuff. Do we know when dispersal of funds will be?
Dispersal of funds will be a reimbursement type of dispersal. So it will be, instructions will go out with the award letter on how to submit reimbursement for those grants. Usually we will have instructed at no less than a quarterly reimbursement for grantees to submit their invoices, and then funds will be given out on a reimbursement basis.
Okay, so then if we have a minimum grant amount of 500,000 on a reimbursement basis, I'm just kind of feeling that will really kind of nix any small organizations that really don't have that kind of money, in the bank. And it would kind of be more organizations that the large organizations that have this kind of money available for grant matches seem to be getting a better shot at getting the grants, basically. So is there a waiver that we can do if there's a small organization, say a small kids group, or something like that, a small nonprofit that wants to participate? I would imagine that 20% of or even just the 500,000 coming up on a quarterly basis can be, you have to have a lot in the bank to be able to participate. That's what I'm getting at.
So Thank you, Director Suniga. A couple of answers to your question. One, the organization should be eligible to receive CMAQ funds according to the statute that established the enterprise. So if they are eligible to receive that and aren't able to meet the match for the 500,000, they can request a match waiver reduction. 20% is the general guideline that we use for a lot of that CDOT uses for a lot of transportation projects. However, using kind of a similar type of a scheme that was developed for the multimodal options fund, if the organization wishes to submit a waiver reduction, that can be put forward for the board's consideration to reduce that match reduction rate.
Okay.
And even though I think from the reimbursement will happen as soon as they submit the invoice, so they are able to submit the invoice. We probably don't want to submit encourage organizations not to submit it towards the end of the project, because that tends to be a little bit messy from the administration side, but no less than on a quarterly basis if they receive the funds. But if they submit it on a monthly basis, then they're able to receive reimbursement on a more regular basis for that project as they go with building the project or implementing their grant.
Thank you, Darius. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, the playing field is equal, for all different levels of organizations. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Director Suniga, for asking that question. I think that's important, and it's not that it seems like because the organization that applies has to be eligible for the CMAQ dollars, a nonprofit would have to probably do that in conjunction with like a municipality or something like that, right? And then, not that municipalities are flush, especially small municipalities, but usually have they have the waiver process, and then they have the ability to probably at least some reserves to be able to use to be able to start a project, and then they can get those regular reimbursements. So with the I have a question. So with the reimbursement or the kind of paperwork they need, I know some small communities, let's say in my MPO, that don't necessarily apply for things because the paperwork required to to get the reimbursement and everything feels cumbersome or something like that. They don't have a lot of, do you feel like, this, I mean, kind of like in looking through the packet, I don't think things seem terribly cumbersome and things seem pretty straightforward, but can you speak to that at all, Darius?
Yeah, I think the reimbursement process is kind of what's outlined within state statute and state fiscal rules, which we tried to capture as best as we possible in an easy to understand language in I believe Appendix C, basically being able to have a cover page which would say what you're reimbursing for, and then having backup documentation is probably the best way I can sum it up. If you're able to provide that, then usually the reimbursement goes well. We'll note that putting on my other hat as the director of the Division of Transportation Development, we have worked on how we can help smaller communities with programs like the Revitalizing Main Streets on that type of process. So we do have folks that I can help bring into the enterprise to help with that and answer questions as need be, so folks can be successful and getting those reimbursements done. And that should not be a barrier. So these are not federal funds. We do not have to follow everything in regards to federal rules, but there are state and the state statute and state fiscal rules that we do have to follow. Plus, we'll have the assistance from the staff assigned from the Division of Accounting and Finance who are supporting the enterprise. In particular, Sam, Tony, and Kay. I believe both of them are on this call here, so they're feel happy to override me if I say anything incorrect, but be able to provide that assistance and do that checking as well.
Yeah, that's really great. I appreciate that. Assistance probably is really good, especially if somebody really hasn't applied for a lot of grants. We have communities even in Larimer County that are small enough that they might be interested in it, but haven't really done a ton of grant writing. So that's really helpful. Any other questions? All right, I think we can move on then.
Okay. So the next potential piece of this is the outreach piece. And this is probably what's not in the actual NOFO itself, but some potential ideas that we've been working on as staff in order to implement this to achieve the direction from the board to try and get out the word as best as possible and get out to communities or organizations that are eligible who may not have been able to apply before because of cumbersome regulations, because of whatever the case may be. So these are a couple of ideas, and staff is open to seeing what other ideas that we have. So first off, probably instead of the small grant program, one of the things that we had came up with, and I admit at probably at the last minute, was naming it, and which all credit goes to Phil for coming up for this name, but NAAPME Community Clean Transportation Assistance Program, otherwise known as NAAPME CTAP. So that will be up if the board agrees that we can continue with that name and use that as a potential branding on this. When we are ready to publish this, we will solicit support from the CDOT Communications Office in order to get out an official press release that we can also share out with the board, so you can share it out to your communities and of interest and to anybody who would be able to apply. Between now and the close of the grant, the board staff will solicit potential presentations at the three major transportation organizations in the non-attainment area, those being DRCOG, the North Front Range MPO, and the Upper Front Range TPR, to present on the grant opportunity and how organizations can apply. Using some of the information that's available in the Office of Policy and Government Relations at CDOT, being able to do an outreach blast to potential local governments who might be interested within the non-attainment area, so that way they're aware of this program. And working diligently with the consultant that we have procured based on the consultant support that was approved by the board, I believe in May, in order to translate this entire NOFO into Spanish and get that on the website as soon as possible to avoid any delays. And then, of course, updating the NAAPME website, which includes talking about the NOFO in brief, having a copy of a finalized copy of what you see in your packet, having a copy of the application, and then having a potential frequently asked questions document that will be updated on a regular basis as we get questions to come in order to help with some of those queries that may be on a regular basis. But open to any suggestions that the board would like staff to pursue in regards to this.
Director Suniga.
Thank you. Darius, I know the presentations that sound wonderful, to DRCOG, the Front Range MPO, but I have a feeling, and I think maybe Chair Stevens, you may have said at one point that a lot of those smaller townships don't attend those meetings or are participating in that. And so I'm wondering the feasibility of getting out to smaller townships that maybe don't have representation at these boards and doing a 10-15-minute presentation, either with town managers, city managers, whatever they call them, or perhaps at a board meeting, just to say, hey, this is here, you are in the eligible area for application, just to kind of give general information. And then if they're interested, of course they can be, directed to the website. But I really feel I would like to see if it's feasible for us to get out and give kind of the same attention to the smaller townships that maybe aren't as represented at these bigger groups. What is the feasibility of that?
It's an interesting question. It depends on what the schedules will be and the staff capacity. We would love to be able to get out to more, but at a minimum, we will, the database that is compiled by the CDOT Government of Policy and Government Relations should include every single municipality, county government in the state to have some contacts in order to send out. But if a local government or a local municipality reaches out to us to have that type of presentation, absolutely the staff will be available to make that. It's kind of hard to schedule around that at this time, but we would try to make that as feasible as possible. But at a minimum, we would have that email blast to go out, and maybe not at just at the beginning, but something a little later on, knowing that certain stages on there. So folks, if they had forgotten in October, but maybe they're ready in December, they're able to kind of continue on there. But I'm also open to any type of any other type of suggestions. So if you're happen to see that as board members that somebody's interested in that, they're more than welcome to send a note to me or to the staff, and we're happy to set up even just a quick call in order to help talk through that. Maybe not a formal presentation, but a call with city manager, county manager, or whomever in order to help talk about this. But we're open to that. I think we would just we would probably want to start with that and see where it goes. If it, hopefully that helped answer your question.
So the email blast, when you say that, who will be on the email? Who will you direct this email to? Is it just to connections to general city information, or?
I can follow back up with that. I think we have general contacts with most. I'm not sure about who the specific elected officials are, but no doubt it would be certain an elected official, if not more, in each of the municipalities, and including the head of the city or county government, usually the county manager's office or city manager's office in that case.
Okay, yeah, I think if we could, I would like to see some kind of direct communication, whether it's email or letter to someone who makes decisions, someone who has that capacity and that power in those communities, rather than just kind of like, because when you say email blast, I'm thinking of like all the million of fundraiser event brochures I get, and that's just my life. So I'd like to see a more direct communication, because I think if we're just giving presentations to these well-attended, mostly well-funded communities who attend this group, we're giving a lot of money, and it's going to perk up everybody's ears. I just want to make sure the opportunities are there for those townships that perhaps could use this, but they're not as connected, just to give them the information so that they can apply if they need to or want to. Thank
and
you.
I think we're absolutely can format it so it's not just a general email, but have a letter included as well to give more information and kind of make it stand out from the potential noise that folks would get in their email box. That absolutely we can do.
I wonder on the same topic, and sorry to jump ahead of you, Director Furco, but would it be, it wouldn't be bad to like maybe have like an hour that we, tell them that and have a short presentation and see if people have questions. And then we include that with the email blast. That way you're not having to do, maybe you could do less of these individual conversations, but they would have some like one-on-one time to ask the questions. And I say that especially because as being part of the Upper Front Range TPR2, I'm not sure, and I could be wrong, but that there's not a meeting until December, beginning of December at this point. And so that would be kind of late in the process of letting those folks know. So that could be kind of killing two birds with one stone, in that we could get out to some of the smaller communities and say, hey, this is an opportunity for you to ask questions about this program. And then especially with the Upper Front Range communities, they would have that hour too. And then, because like I said, I mean, you could present at the December meeting, but I mean, the turnaround time is really short for them to get an application ready around the holidays then. So just a thought. I don't know what you think about that.
Sort of like office
Like a
hours,
webinar. Yeah.
webinar, office hours, that type of thing. I think that's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
we could definitely do. Absolutely.
Okay, Director Furco.
Yeah, similar to Chair Stevens' idea, one suggestion I was going to make is perhaps one of the upcoming presentations that we know will be giving, say the one to the North Front Range MPO, recording that and making the recording available on the website, or including a link to it in the email blast, so folks who aren't able to attend an evening meeting for understandable reasons can still benefit from that without us having to have staff give the same presentation a bunch of times. We've had a lot of success with that with our small business program and a lot of positive feedback on that. Another idea I had was just leveraging other newsletter, like news mailers that our partner organizations have. I know speaking for the division, we have a couple ones I think would be a good fit to include this in. And North Front Range also has a regularly sent out newsletter as well. And I know local governments who are in the areas but can't make the meeting still do get those emails, so we can reach the audience that way as well. Like one more other potential partner is like the Colorado, oh goodness, I'm forgetting the name now. A planning organization, I can't remember, Planning Association, APA is the acronym. But they work with a lot of small towns and different like working groups that they have, so they might be a good resource to reach out to as well.
That's an excellent suggestion. I hadn't thought of the APA, but now that I'm thinking about it, since I am a member of the APA, I'm happy to use that as well. That's an excellent suggestion to include in there and see what resources they have to help get the word out. In addition to the other suggestions, I think those would be definitely feasible as we update the website with this.
Yeah, that's great. I'm thinking of Colorado Municipal League, which most communities are part of, and CCI, the Colorado Counties Incorporated. You know, that's all counties and all municipalities pretty much are in that. So they have newsletters too. And then, because sometimes I'll see a grant opportunity that I haven't seen in any other capacity. Like Director Suniga said, we do get a lot of emails, all of us. And so it's sometimes hard to filter through all of them. But yeah, so I think any of all those suggestions sound great. Any other suggestions about outreach? Oh, Director Suniga.
Well, now we're on a roll. I just wanted to add, you guys got my mind rolling. Perhaps we could send to like school districts too. And maybe chambers of commerce, maybe we might get some response from some business, especially small business. But, that's just a couple of ideas that came to my head. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll look into the feasibility of that.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, good. These are great suggestions for outreach. If anybody thinks of anything, I mean, and then of course, obviously we're able to push that out on our own too, once we get that press releases, if you know of small communities that you think that you're familiar with or that you live in that are, you feel like maybe they're, we know people who serve on city councils in small towns, don't get paid a lot, usually have another job. And Director Suniga, I mean, she was a big community, and you still have a second job, and you still, have a lot of work to do. So sometimes, and small staff sometimes, and you just don't catch everything. So I would definitely encourage all the members here to, kind of push out to communities that that are smaller that might be able to take advantage of these dollars. Any other questions?
No, all great ideas. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. All right, we'll keep moving then.
I think now it's time for the ultimate question. We have phrased this to allow us to open it up as soon as October 1st. As I think we had another small typo in the presentation, September 30th, but I think October 1st makes there, unless there's any undue burden with getting the application out. Of course, we're finalizing everything right now, but this would authorize staff to open that up as soon as October 1st. If there's any delays longer than a couple of weeks, we of course want to push out that timeline, and we would report back to the board on October 24th, I think, on if the timeline was pushed out a little bit, but we would probably want to move pretty quick, knowing that we're probably 99% of the way there anyway, just tying some loose ends. But it would also authorize 17.3 million of programming funds that are initially part of the 10-year plan for this effort that can be reserved out for reimbursement and allocated to specific grants. to be approved by the board, I believe in around the May timeframe. And so this motion is up for consideration by the board of directors today.
Thanks, Darius. Any more comments or questions before we look to vote? I'll just sorry to delay things, but I have just one question. So with regard to like the press release, does a press release go out in Spanish?
We can have it out in Spanish, yes.
Yes.
Okay, that'd be great. And then will you know, how lengthy are those? Because like we have a ton of information obviously here and we want to hit the highlights and stuff, but I mean when I think about, and I know you guys do this all the time, so you have kind of a boilerplate thing that you do, but I guess you know some of the things that I hope we stress in a press release are you know the disproportionately impacted communities piece. I think that you know the fact that they can there is a waiver for communities that can't afford the match, you know that there's help available for people who you know have questions about it, you know understanding the CMAQ tool or the EnviroScreen. So like really you know, I think that some of those helpful pieces around that, I guess making it so I'm looking at it from a small community, I think that's for me. I think I can do that. I think this fits me. And so I guess I want people to see that in that press release. So I, you know, just some suggestions that I would have of how to put that out. And I'll let Vice Chair Baca speak now.
Great, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Darius and staff for all the work on this. I think this encapsulates the vision of the board and the purpose of these funds. And they're all great suggestions, by the way, from all the directors. So thank you for your input. Is it possible, and I apologize if I missed this in your presentation, that once it's made public, that either the press release or the NOFO be emailed to the board? Or where's it going to be at so I can, you know, download it or grab it as a county commissioner, and then I can share directly with my networks here in the county, cities that I know, or so once it's made public, where can we find it, or can you share it with us? And then I can also push it out to the networks. There's just a lot I can tell you with a lot of confidence that we're all winding down ARPA funding and commitments. And so grants staff and staff overall are, we all got flushed with funds that we're trying to tie up, and we're all working on big projects for that next step forward on ARPA, regional as well. And so I think putting it in front of them several times would be helpful.
So if I could, Chair, to answer your questions, the NOFO is about a page, but absolutely we can hit on some of the high notes and refer them back to the website, which will have the documents available.
That's perfect.
And then we will absolutely, once we have everything finalized and it's ready to go out, we will send a copy to the board of directors, and a copy will be available on the website as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Darius.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions before we make this big move, which has been a long time coming? Anything else? Vice Chair Baca, did you have another question, or your hand was still up, so I didn't want to.
So sorry, I'll take my hand down.
No, that's okay. That's all right. Just wanted to make sure before we. All right. Deep breath. Okay. Would someone like to make the motion?
I move to authorize the NAAPME Community Clean Transportation Assistance Program and authorize staff to open call for projects to exceed no more than $17,300,000 of NAAPME programming funds as early as October 1st, 2024.
Woohoo! Thanks, Director Holman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Director Furco seconds. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, the ayes have it. It was unanimous. And so we are moving forward 2 years, right? It feels so good.
It
Thank
does.
you all. I'm sorry, Vice Chair Baca, did you have a?
No, this is a monumental moment for our group, and it feels good to pass that.
It does, and I'm so proud of the work that we've all done together. I think that it's been a real team effort. We really talked through a lot of these, and thank you to staff who was patient and supportive of all those conversations we had, because I feel like we really got to a place where we all have something that we can be proud of and that we feel like will fit communities and will really help communities. So I'm not only happy to have it done, I'm happy that the process was such a great experience. So thank you very much, everyone. All right, we'll get on to some routine things now. Darius, enterprise budget and program updates.
Thank you. And if there, we'll keep the board updated through email if necessary on this. If there is any major delays, we'll probably let the board know in email, as well as talking about that at the next board meeting, just to make sure if anything that comes up that hadn't been thought through, because we want to make sure that as this goes out, that we cross all the I's and cross all the T's and dot all the I's. There we go. I got that right. And see, as we kind of finalize this with working with our Office of Communications, any other potential pitfalls, we want to make sure that's there. But if all else fails, then we should be having this out here shortly, and we will keep the board informed either way. All right. Moving into the budget for this fiscal year. The approved budget was for around about 25 million this year, with the allocation that we had just provided, and we will update this sheet a little bit later next month with the information that has been provided on here. As far as programming, but from a expenditure standpoint, expenditures for this fiscal year, since we're only about 2 months in, are fairly light, totaling about $5,500, mostly for staff salaries and Department of Law legal support. We'll note that we do have some consultant service support in there for the board to consider if need be, but the previous consultant support that I had mentioned earlier, it was using FY24 funds, and it's still out there. It does not use FY25 funds at this time. Moving on to some enterprise programming updates. As we had mentioned, working on some of the logistics around this call and working with getting it out based off of the direction that you had gave today. Working with the consultant on the Spanish language of the NOFO, which was the primary task for them to get that out as quickly as possible and not have any major delay, and then work on the 10-year plan as well and get that translated fully and up on the website shortly afterwards. Continuing to work onto the website to make it accessible, so there may be some older documents that may not be as readily available as before, usually old meeting documents from like 2022. Those are still going to be available if the public asked for them, but they may not be as immediately available as we go through remediation process. Upcoming items for the next 2 meetings, because we have 2 meetings later this calendar year, is the development of the FY26 budget, which will be a draft budget for consideration by the board next month, and the reconciliation of what was collected versus the revenue forecast of FY24 funds. We'll bring that forward at the October meeting. And then the development of the NAAPME annual report, which goes to the Transportation Commission and the Colorado General Assembly. That is scheduled for the December 5th meeting for consideration and review by the board. Other things that may be up for potential discussions, of course, updates on the NOFO's progress at each of the meetings, and potential discussion on the larger grant program focused on BRT, continuing those discussions happening in October and December as well. And just to note, there is no NAAPME board meeting per the board's direction in November. It would have fallen on November 28th, I believe, and that, of course, is Thanksgiving. So instead, it will be early December. December 5th. And at either the October meeting or December 5th meeting, we'll bring forward a potential schedule to finalize for the final half of fiscal year 25 for the board to approve that board meeting schedule. And that is it, Chair, but happy to answer any questions board members may have about the enterprise program and budget updates.
Thank you, Darius. Any questions on those items for Darius? Darius, will we kind of get an update? Oh, Director Suniga.
Oh, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to again thank the staff for what a remarkable keeping us on time, meeting our deadlines, and the remarkable work that you've done on this. We really appreciate it, and the directors too as well. We've all worked so hard. So we're here off the support of a wonderful staff. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Director Suniga. It looks like Director Holguin put hers in the comments. I think we all feel that way. It's been really great to work with the staff, and we really appreciate the work that you've helped us kind of learn this whole process too. For some of us, this is pretty new to go through this. So we appreciate that. The question I had was on the next two meetings, will we kind of get some updates on how many applications have come in? There might not be that many like at the end of October, but December 5th, could we at least get a count? Can we hear
Absolutely.
how many? Okay, just
Absolutely.
curious, I imagine there will be interest in this for sure. There's a lot of great projects out there that are so.
I would say just from the rumor mill I hear, there is already, apologies for that there is already interest. So, but absolutely will be happy to provide to the board account as of that meeting.
Perfect. And then do you send out, like when you said you push out an email, is there sort of a reminder email like hey, you only have 30 days or 20 days or something like that to get those in? Is that customary or is it not? Just because I think people might, have it in their minds and then they need that little push.
It is something that we can definitely consider, and probably something we probably should, noting that this is a new program. We probably have it out longer than what we traditionally have with some more established programs. Not sure what kind of time frame some of the MPOs do, but note for something like, I don't know, TAP or MMOF, I don't think those are as long as what we have, but I think that would probably be a good suggestion, knowing that we have about 6 to 8 month process in here, and want to make sure that folks don't forget.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like putting your baby out into the world, and so you want to know like all this stuff. Like I'm very curious about what kind of questions people have, or that's why I said it would any kind of update we could get. And I know it won't be definitive, but it might just be just for curiosity's sake of maybe the reception you get when you present it and things like that. So anything you can let us know, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Any questions before we adjourn? All right. Wow. We not only got done this really big business, but we actually got done early. So bravo. Thank you again, everyone. This was great. And I feel really excited to see, to get these dollars out. So this was great. All right. So I adjourn this meeting, and we'll see you all at the end of October.
Thank you all.
Great.
Near my
Thank you.
birthday. So.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.